right.
I
Good.
think Robert's supposed to be coming also. But we can, yeah.
We can get going without him.
Good deal. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm going to start with our virtual statement. All members of the Public Assembly Facilities Commission are participating virtually. For virtual meetings, commission members will be muted until asked to be heard. At that time, they will be recognized and will be unmuted. When there is a vote, it will be necessary to take a roll call vote. A commission member will be recognized and will raise their hand and state their vote. Today's meeting is a public meeting. Citizens can listen to the meeting if they contacted the city manager's office to make the necessary arrangements. The meeting will also be live streamed on the city's YouTube channel. A recording of today's meeting will be available by Friday, April 22nd, 2022 on the city's.
Here.
Billy Rich.
Here.
Manya Stewart.
Here.
Kathleen Garber.
Here.
Vicki Miller.
Here.
Ray Bowden. He's not here. Bill Oakes.
Here.
And Priscilla Green.
Here.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. We will start our agenda today with an approval of the minutes from the March 21 meeting. Could I have a motion for approval for the minutes, please?
I move for approval.
I second.
Thank you. A motion has been made and seconded. Is there any question? All in favor, please let it be known by a roll call vote, please.
Priscilla.
Yes.
Vicki.
Yes.
Haley.
Yes.
Otis.
Yes.
Bill.
Yes.
Billy.
Yes.
Manya.
Yes.
And Kat.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. We'll move on to our resolution approving an entertainment and attraction agreement for the 2022 Carolina Classic Fair. Cheryl, do you want to take that?
Yes, thank you. As you can see on the sheet here, we've got scales, tails, and teeth alligator demonstration with a reptile walkthrough exhibit. That is for $19,000. This is a alligator demonstration. One of the guys there was on the hit show Gator Boys. I don't know if anybody actually ever watched that on Animal Planet. He was one of the two main characters on the show. They will be wrestling alligators, and also there is a reptile walkthrough. The exhibit is educational, fun, and it's great for all ages. I think it's really going to do well, especially with the dinosaurs that we have exhibit in the back of the annex. That kind of ties in with it also. I'm looking forward to seeing this. I think the shows are looking good, and the education that captures the techniques used by like Native Americans, how they traditionally captured alligators back in the day, and meet and greets. This type of exhibit is a constant all-day exhibit with a reptile. So you get the most bang for your buck with this type of entertainment. Does anyone have any questions on it? Okay, well, that's all I've got at this time. I'm still working on other entertainment options.
Thank you, Cheryl. Do you need to vote? We need to vote on this one.
Yes, it's 19,000 and you are required to vote on this one.
Commissioners, you've heard the information. Could I have a motion to approve this resolution, please?
Motion to approve.
Been made and seconded. All those in favor, is there any question? Excuse me. If no question, could we have a roll call vote, please?
Priscilla.
Yes.
Vicki.
Yes.
Haley.
Yes.
Otis.
Yes.
Bill Oakes.
Yes.
Billy.
Yes.
Manya.
Yes.
And Kat.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. We will now move on to the resolution approving adjustments to the rates and fees of the Carolina Classic Fair.
Good morning, everybody. Well, I guess afternoon at this point. I will go ahead and jump on this aspect of our agenda today. So you should have received our proposed new rates for the 2022 Carolina Classic Fair. The old rates were listed in red to the far right. So you'll notice that we're asking for our gross receipts for our food booths to go up to 15%, but we will leave their rent as has been in the past several years. There'll be no change for their utilities, and their natural gas is billed on their actual usage. Inside space, we're going up 100 per standard booth, food concession, and jewelry. Nonprofit, we're only raising it $50. And then in outside concession, we are increasing those just a tad bit. We're going from $50 a foot to $70 a foot for standard, and novelty is going to go from $60 to $80. And in our agricultural realm, they will go to, I'm sorry, I was trying to see that, $400 was the minimum, and we're going to increase that minimum. I think there's a typo there. That should be 600. So I apologize for that. And then food concessions will be $75 per front footage versus the 18%, which in the previous we had been 50 for the front footage. And so we are leaving their percentage alone at this time. No change for their outside electrical. And then in stock truck world, I believe we're going up 100 for each vendor stock and commercial stock. Camping, we are not changing at this time. Insurance is going up $15, and golf cart permit is going up 100. These are all within the standard industry rates that are out there, and we have not increased our rates since FY 10-11. So I request that you guys look over that, and if you have any questions, please let me know.
This is for the entire time of the fair, say?
Yes, Billy, it will be for all 10 days of the fair.
Any other questions, commissioners?
I think the only question that I would have is as you look through this, and given the pretty extended time since we made an increase and with costs going up, do you feel that this is we're not looking to gouge, but we're also looking to make sure we're getting sort of market for our event? Do you think that there's room for additional increases, in the next year or two, and this is sort of a way to step, or do you think this is a level we'll hold at for a couple of years?
I believe that we'll hold this for a couple of years. I did a lot of research for other fairs and pulled up multiple locations within the states, looking at their rates prior to making these adjustments. I do think we can stay there for a couple of years. Some of those that have not had a change, that I'm leaving at no change, could potentially make some changes in the next couple of years, depending on things that are happening here on the grounds. But for those that have been increased, I see them staying the same for a couple of years.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Just a question. Looking at our 2019 versus 2021 participation, was there a big difference in that participation rate based on the pandemic?
I would say yes, but more in the level of not having enough people to work their stands. They're having a hard time with my outside concessionaires. We're having a hard time. Hopefully, they were planning to be here in 2022. So once these rates are determined whether we're going to go forward with them or not, I will be able to send out our contracts or lease agreements, lease agreements to them, and I'll have a better idea of who will be able to participate with us this year. And I should know that by June 1st.
Any other questions, commissioners? Hearing none, could I have a motion for approval of the the adjustments for the rates and fees for the Carolina Classic Fair?
I move for approval.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any question? We will take a vote at this point with a roll call vote, please.
Was that Otis for the second?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, just checking. Priscilla.
Yes.
Vicky,
Yes.
Haley,
Yes.
Otis,
Yes.
Bill Oakes,
Yes.
Billy Rich,
Yes.
Manya,
Yes.
and Kat.
Yes.
Thank y'all.
Thank you, everyone. Discussion about the Winston-Salem Fairgrounds programming and community input.
Yes, I'll take that one, Madam Chairman. So let me get myself regrouped here. So several weeks ago, the marketing committee was established to look into how the fairgrounds can diversify its programming and hopefully reach other parts of the community. I think that there's been some concerns expressed here, within the last year or so about, the particular types of concerts that we have booked at the fairgrounds. And so, the marketing committee has started to discuss, a way for us to look into that. You all have heard a presentation from staff from the city's Human Relations, Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Department, who will be assisting us with this effort. So here within the last week or so, the marketing committee met with staff, and what we wanted to present to you all today is just the outlines of a plan to how we can continue that work on looking at ways to diversify our programming, and so we just want to get some feedback from the full commission today. But what we are considering is basically a two-pronged approach to getting some input from the community about the programming at the fairgrounds. One would be a community input meeting, probably a very similar format to the one that we use to receive input from the community about suggested names for the Carolina Classic Fair. And then also an online survey so that folks could provide input that way. The thinking is that depending on the kind of participation that we see with a community input meeting, we also may take it a step further and either reach out to specific groups or organizations to get feedback from them if those particular groups weren't represented in the community input meeting, but maybe do some kind of selected outreach, based on the kind of participation we see in a community input meeting. So, and the focus, of this effort would be not just on, what type of concerts folks would like to see, booked at the fairgrounds, but it would look at all of our programming. And so as part of that, obviously staff will need to be compiling information about, what we currently provide, so that there's, some context as far as, what we want to do, how we want to improve on the diversity of our programming going forward. And then to also make sure that we have our diversity, equity, inclusion lens applied to this, as we are working through that. So really, those are just the broad sketches of what was discussed with the marketing committee here recently. Our thinking in terms of going forward, staff would work on a more specific plan that we would present to the marketing committee next month. And then based on their work and how they would like to refine it, then bring a proposal to the full commission the following week, so that your regular meeting in May. And then if you all approve that, then we'll begin planning to start this community engagement process, hopefully in June, and both with the community input meeting and with the online survey. That would be our hope. There would be able to start, really start the work, later this spring. So anyway, that's kind of, like I said, the broad outlines of what we're looking at, but we wanted to present this idea to the commission and get your input so that can help guide the work of staff here over the next couple of weeks. Thank you.
Thank you, Ben. Any further input, commissioners? Thank you all. We'll go on to the staff updates, and we'll start with the Fairgrounds Grandstand.
Okay, so wanted to give you an update. This is kind of a new update item on the agenda. But if you recall, back in early January, we had a major windstorm that came through the city, and we suffered some extensive damage to the grandstand roof. I mean, sections of it, basically of the coating that was on the roof, were blown off, and it basically exposed the roof and exposed the rest of the grandstand to water infiltration. Our property and facilities management department, put in some measures to kind of help minimize that, but nevertheless, it's happened. So it had an impact on our electrical systems that are connected to the grandstand, to our sound system, some of the inventory and equipment that we have stored in the grandstand. And so fairground staff and property facilities management staff and our risk management department have been working closely on preparing a claim to submit to our property insurance carrier to hopefully recover some revenue and be able to move forward with making repairs to the grandstand. I think we've assembled all the documentation that we can at this point to document the cost that we're looking at. And just to give you an example, I think that the roof itself is we're probably looking at something in the order of probably over $200,000 to repair the roof. But because of the infiltration of water, and we visually have seen some molding and some other issues, that we've also retained an engineering firm to do a structural assessment of the grandstand. I mean, first and foremost, to make sure that whatever solution we come up with for the roof, that the grandstand can support it, but also to look at other structures there within the stand, like the steps, the seating area, that type of thing. If you were to go there on site right now and look up under it, you could see sections where where there's more wood substructure there that I think needs attention. If you go and you're actually looking on top of the seating there, that's concrete, that there's some concrete that has basically eroded down to the rebar. So we want to make sure that first and foremost that the grandstand is safe. And so that's part of the scope of the assessment that's going to be done, is to get that kind of information. But in the meantime, a city team is going to convene to start working on planning for making these repairs. We'll probably have to bid out a good bit of the work. The goal with this is going to be to try to get the grandstand basically online for the Carolina Classic Fair. We do have events that are booked in the grandstand before then, and we're just going to have to see if we'll be able to hold them there. It just depends on the timeline for being able to get repairs done. So we're going to be working quickly to try to start get plans in motion to determine exactly what it is we need to do to ensure that the stand is safe and to repair the roof. And I'm not sure at this point what the total cost of this could be, but again, but just the roof by itself is probably, we're probably looking at something over $200,000 there. And so, our hope is that the insurance settlement will pay for most of those costs. But if not, then we do have some reserve funds in the Fairgrounds Fund that we'll tap into to pay for that. So to pay for any kind of remaining cost. So I'll be happy to answer any questions. Okay.
Thank you, Ben.
This is Vicky. I have a question. You said before that there was, I guess in total, how much damage is it? Was it 200,000 or 400,000? What was
So
it?
I know, Vicki, we don't have a full cost estimate. I'll look to Cheryl.
Okay.
Cheryl, do you know how much we've submitted in terms of documented cost at this point?
Without pulling up just some of our emails, I think we're getting close to the 300, maybe even over 300 with the electrical and the equipment and the sound system. And that's not even including the structural assessment yet. So I think I'm not even sure where to guess at it right now until we get some more figures back.
We'll provide a more specific estimate at the next meeting, and we'll continue to give you updates every month on the progress of this project, since it is such an integral part of our entertainment offering during the fair. One other dynamic to this is if we're not able to host events there between now and the fair, we may be able to get some recovery for lost revenue, but so we're still working with our insurance carrier as we're trying to get some kind of settlement from this.
Okay.
Is there? Oh, sorry, Vicki.
Oh, I'm finished. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, is there, from the engineering firm that you're working with, is there any sort of estimate on the timeline for what construction would be? I know aiming for the fair, but is that still a feasible target at this point?
So that's a good question. I don't know for sure, Kathleen. I think that's something we definitely staff needs to get a sense of from the engineers. So that's why we've got to convene the project team as soon as possible to kind of build out a time frame, because it's not just the work itself, going up and replacing the roof and making those repairs, but it's also the fact that we probably will have to bid out the work, and there's a process involved with that, to taking items to, for example, with the roof, let's just take the roof, that has been our practice, we'll go through a bidding process, and we'll bring an item to you all to recommend to council, awarding the contract for, for the roof repairs. And so we'd probably follow something very similar, for that piece. So we'll definitely be able to, we'll definitely work to bring you back information next month that gives you more of an idea of the time frame we're looking at, because we know that every week that goes by is, that we're not doing something on it, just tightens the time frame.
Thank you. Do we know, I'm imagining it's some sort of special material. You can't just go to Lowe's and buy a grandstand roof. Do we know kind of what the supply chain is looking like for the AV equipment that will be needed, the roof materials, et cetera?
I don't know. That's absolutely a great question, because that will factor into the timeline. And so part of our planning may very well include, developing, a plan B, a plan C for how we may still be able to hold events in that area of the fairgrounds, even if we can't utilize the grandstand itself. So I think at this point of our planning, it'll be, first and foremost focused on the project itself. And at this point, I don't know, what the specifications will be, for the roof repair, whether it's, just completely a complete new structure, or whether it be some repairs with a new coating. I'm talking way out of my area of expertise, to speculate. But then also we may very well need to also be talking about plan B, for how we can still do some programming potentially, without, folks being able to use the restrooms or sit in the grandstand. And I don't know what that could look like at this point.
When did this happen?
It was in early January. If you recall, we had a really bad wind, really bad storms in early January. And it's taken time to to get the, adjusters on site to do, their assessment. It was unsafe for anybody to actually go up onto the roof or even use the stairs up to the roof. So they've used drones, they've used other means of trying to develop that assessment. And then just the process of trying to develop the documentation that the insurance company needs to be able to develop the claim. And so it has taken some time, but I think we're at a point now where I think we've gotten, basically everything that we needed submitted. But now it's time for us to go ahead and start working on the plans to actually, make the repairs. And because we do have some reserve funds, we should be able to bridge, cash wise, any funding until we would get a settlement.
So based on the assessment from the review, do you know about when you would be hearing from the insurance companies? Or because it would appear that, I would hope based on the coverage that some of this would be covered, if not the majority.
I believe that's correct. And we'll follow up. Staff will follow up after this meeting with our risk management staff to get a sense of, where that process is. But again, because we do have reserve funds in the Fairgrounds Fund, the council did allocate part of our American Rescue Plan Act money to several funds that were, most adversely impacted by the pandemic, and part of that included an infusion of money to the fairgrounds, which we want to hold most of that as our literal and figurative rainy day fund. But we know that this is going to be a high priority, and from a cash flow standpoint, it would just allow us to go ahead and start the planning and hopefully get moving with letting contracts and incurring expenses even before we actually get any kind of settlement.
Perfect. Thank you.
Hey, Ben, a couple of years ago, there was an assessment, sort of capital needs for the fairgrounds, if I remember correctly, sort of urgent needs, near term, and then sort of long-term improvements to the fair facilities. And some of what you just described underneath the grandstand, I'm a little troubled that wasn't anything that was affected or was related to the roof event. It doesn't sound like, and so I think maybe going back and revisiting, if appropriate, the assessment that was done a year or three ago on some of the infrastructure, because that sounds like there's been some deterioration that's occurred that maybe wasn't noted. And I may misunderstand. Would you sort of just clarify for me?
Sure, absolutely. So you're correct that the operational review master plan that was done back in 2015, included a comprehensive assessment of all the facilities, and it did identify the grandstand as one area that needed attention. I think the option, if I remember correctly, was basically almost a total replacement of the grandstand. And at the time, so this was 2015, I think that the plan estimated that the cost would be several $1 million to completely replace the grandstand. And as staff worked to prepare a package of prioritized needs for the council, shortly after that plan was completed, it boiled down to, what were the most critical needs that needed to be addressed, because we knew that we probably wouldn't get financing for the full, cost of the plan, which was over $27 million. And, the council ended up approving $2 million, which a lot of that was focused on the systems in the annex, because we needed to make sure that the annex could sustain ice, and those systems were at their end of life, and those ended up being significant investments in that building, and so we're not looking at this point at the option of a complete replacement of the grandstand. And so that's why we're willing to do this assessment and see what else we need to do beyond just perhaps replacing the roof.
Okay, Ben, this is Vicky. That was my thinking when I asked my question. You really answered it what I was thinking. It's not worth really replacement of the grandstand, but it's just that we have substantial costs, that are coming up. And I guess it would be interesting what the engineer's assessment is going to be, including the 2015, you said, estimates of some things also then that needed to be done. So I'm looking forward to the full costs to see what comes up then.
Okay. Well, we'll provide you an updated report at your meeting next month.
Yeah, just to kind of follow up on Vicky and Otis's, it sort of sounds like we're obviously at a point that repairs need to be made, but if there is some of this rescue fund money available, I understand wanting to keep some of it in reserve, but I mean, I think we can all agree, anyone who has been to the grandstand in the past few years, it is not the most up-to-date facility. And I know personally, like, of all of the bathrooms on the fairgrounds, the ones at the grandstand, I tell people do not use those. Like, go find any other bathroom that you can find. And so I would hope that we're sort of in an opportunity where we're already in a construction project and in repair. And so could we do some improvements at the same time?
I think that's a good point, Kathleen. I think that's something that we could certainly look at. We don't want to deplete all of our reserve funds because we basically did that, just to be able to make it through the last 2 years. And so to exhaust it, to try to meet all of our capital needs, we have to be careful about that. But I think you make a very good point about if there is an option while we're having work done, if we know that there's some other parts of that structure that we really ought to make the investment, whether it's updating the bathrooms or something else, then we need to look at that.
Also, Ben, I think with looking at the repairs and looking at the future, this should give us a chance to see how we can renovate or look at the long range of redoing that facility to help us in our marketing efforts at the fairground.
Mm-hmm. I agree.
Yes.
Heck yes. I think everybody's made very good points, Mr. Rao, and I think Kathleen's were spot on, and I hope that those won't be brushed aside. Appreciate it.
Yes, because as Billy said, if we really look at the entire facility to upgrade it, that is going to go a long way in marketing when it comes to the events that are there, because we may even get more events there because of it.
I agree. Well, we'll definitely look at that.
Good discussion. Thank you, everyone. We will go now to Thunderbirds Ice Hockey. Oh, sorry. Did I skip the operations and event calendar?
I see Robert's online. I don't know if he's available to speak to that.
I think, what is it, *6 is what unmutes you on your phone.
There you go. Can you guys hear me now?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, sorry about that. Yeah, I guess the regular mute button doesn't work. So appreciate you having me today. Well, Thank you for having me today. And I'm going to jump kind of to the Fairgrounds updates here. The Thunderbirds have their first playoff game tonight. It's on the road. First home game will be tomorrow, and depending on if they win or lose 2 games, they may play again on Wednesday. So the Thunderbirds ice season may end tomorrow night, or it may end Wednesday night. If they win 2 games, we'll have another game series this weekend. So they'll play Port Huron first 2 days. And then as soon as the Thunderbirds kind of exit out, we are pretty much done with ice season. Youth hockey and all of our regular adult groups are cut out right now. So we'll go straight into kind of our concert season in the Annex. And start with 2 concerts on May 19th and 20th. And then we'll kind of roll into June and July and it looks like we'll have a normal full event calendar for the Fairgrounds event. I'll also touch on, Rachel, if you could pull up the Union Station piece. Back last June, July, you guys approved the usage of Union Station under the Public Assembly Facilities rate sheet. And we've gotten, it hasn't been terribly high volume as far as inquiries, but we have had 10 inquiries over the past year, 5 of which have led to folks wanting quotes. And of those 5 quotes, 4 bookings came from that. So that's actually a really high percentage. And what we're hearing is most folks are, once they see the building and they see the space, a lot of them already know of it. They're referred via someone in the historic commission or some other route where they've had involvement with Union Station over the past. They're really interested and excited to book that facility. And it's a beautiful facility if you haven't been there. But we'll host our first wedding as of right now scheduled for October 7th. So that'll be really neat. And we're going to use that opportunity to get some photos and really promote it in a separate way. And I'll take any questions on the Union Station piece or the Fairgrounds piece right now.
What is marketing wise? What's happening with that? Because I didn't get a chance to take advantage of the tours of the Union Station. I think it was like 3-4 years ago. And I didn't know if they still had any tours available, because I would like to see it.
So as far as tours go, I think, and Ben and Rachel, maybe you guys, maybe once we do kind of an in-person, once we get back to in-person, maybe that's a place we could meet and just get you guys in that space. As far as like regular marketing of that facility, it's not effective. If people inquire, they're pointed our direction. And I think part of that is there's still a longer term goal or plan for the city and Winston-Salem State to share that upper level and use it as a restaurant, kind of welcoming space for the university. So I think in the meantime, that's kind of why we were given that blessing to say, hey, let's rent this out while we can. And that's what we do with these other facilities. So we don't really have anything out there pushing out to the public at the moment.
But just to add on to what Robert said, so we can schedule tours to the city, I think through our historic preservation staff. You know, we can schedule a kind of a site visit for you all. And I think that what Robert suggested, that might be, you know, a good opportunity to do that if we can, you know, hold an in-person meeting there, or if in the meantime, if several of you might want to you know, meet, we have to be careful, because if a majority of you meet, then it becomes a public meeting and we'd have to advertise and all that. So we have to manage through that. But it might be, you know, best if we wanted to try to do a meeting out there. But just so for those of you who are not not aware of kind of our plans, there are 3 levels to Union Station. What we call the first level, which is actually at the railroad track level, is occupied by the city's Department of Transportation. So our transportation administration staff, our traffic signal system operation, our transportation planning staff, they're all located on that ground level floor, if you will. The second level of Union Station, the city has entered into a lease with Winston-Salem State for them to upfit that space and to operate some of their programs on that floor. And then, as Robert noted, on the third level, which is actually the street level space, the city is pursuing development of part of that space for a restaurant. We went through a request for proposal process probably towards the end of 2020 and received one proposal. And so we're trying to work through that. The pandemic has kind of slowed down planning efforts for that, but that's something we're still exploring is how we can develop part of that space into a restaurant. But then the other part of the space where there are restroom facilities, that space has been restored to its original look, and we've even had some furnishings purchased to help restore that historic look of Union Station. So we can look to do a site visit, or even when we're able to meet in person, maybe even hold a meeting there at Union Station. But in the meantime, if you individually or and small groups wanted to try to schedule something, then we'd work to help make that happen.
Excellent. Thank you, Ben. We'll go on to the Carolina Classic Fair.
As you can see, we've got a lot on our plate. We're planning daily. Rachel and Carrie, they've been to quite a few conferences. We went up to San Antonio. We've got a lot of good ideas. Carrie, do you want to take this and share what you did with the fair planning on some of our new ideas, what we got in store?
Sure, absolutely. Okay. So we had visited San Antonio, Texas back in November, December, and then we were able to visit out in Denver in January, and then down in Tampa in February. And we've been able to gain a lot of great new ideas for the fairgrounds. One of those is we've started coming up with an idea, and I think we said Tot Town. It's for toddlers, and it'll be outside in the space over there close to Kittyland. I'm hoping to be able to reconfigure some of our food in the corner there, closest to the agriculture building, where they have all of the fruits and vegetables, and just design it for toddlers so that mom pushing a stroller has an opportunity to sit down because they can only ride like the carousel, and they just need an opportunity to sit down and have something to eat, or have a toddler friendly area where they can play with different types of educational, agricultural style entertainment ideas, I guess, like even if it's a sand pit and it's got corn or soybeans in it. So it teaches them about that aspect of agriculture. And I know they're young, but just some small ideas for them to be able to create, even if it's something that they can create there with their parents. We as an industry have noticed that if we provide seating, people have a tendency to stay longer, whether that's seating to eat their food or seating just to rest for a few minutes. So the other aspect we're going to throw into that is the opportunity to sponsor a bench for the seating. That would be like a park bench style bench, so that we can actually advertise whoever that sponsor is. And I've got to do a little bit of research to find out the cost of the actual bench so that we can put together that sponsorship opportunity. The other one that I'm looking at doing is changing the layout of the actual Annex building. As I stated at Fair Planning Committee, I think that building has been in that layout since I will say I was much younger, for a very long time, prior to me working here, and this will be my 17th fair. So I have come up with a new layout, a new way to put the sponsors out there on the floor, and I want to do a local crafters corner So I have been visiting different farmers markets and festivals this spring and getting business cards from different crafters so that I can reach out to them and talk to them about, our 10-day event. And if they get enough information in advance, then they might have the opportunity to be able to, participate with us for 10 days. I've gotten several great leads for some new crafts that we haven't had in the building prior. So I'm just looking forward to some new changes, kind of shaping it up and making it look a little different than it has, and see where we can go from there. I think one of the other ideas that I've actually was shared with me several years ago was with the Hickory American Legion Fair. And that is where I got the Veterans Wall idea from. And our Veterans Wall has grown so much that we are probably going to have to take down some of the original pictures that were sent to us in that first or second year so that we can add newer pictures. And what we're talking about doing is putting those into photo albums based on the branch and alphabetically, so they'll be easier to find than just up on the board. When we first started receiving, we were dividing them up by branch, but putting them alphabetically up on the board was difficult since we'd already placed people and then we were getting new. So we just started adding to where we, had dropped off. So we're real excited about that aspect of the Veterans Wall too, and that it has continued to grow. And it's been several years since we added the Veterans Wall, but we're just running out of space for that, location where it is. But those are mostly, I guess, the biggest changes that we're looking at doing this year that I can think of at this moment. And it's all because of attending those different conferences and getting ideas from other fairs. That's what's really great about our industry is we do like to share with each other.
Does sound really good. Thank you, Carrie.
Thank you.
All right, the Benton.
Good afternoon, everybody. So we did make up in March for where we were failing in January and February due to the pandemic. So we actually had a good amount of revenue that actually went into Benton South, which is the new space up underneath the Embassy Suites there. We did do about $70,000 in March in that space. So that's a nice little uptick there from where we've been in the last couple of months there. But revenue wise, April's also looking pretty good. May is not as where we want it to be yet, but I think we're still going to do okay there. So I think we're going to end out the year ahead of plan. So we're excited about that. A couple things going on here in the building that I thought you should know about. Back in February, the escalator on the north end of the building, the steps, I guess, crashed and burned, would be a nice way of saying it. So it's going to be about $98,000 to repair the escalator. So we are working through that right now with an emergency PO to get that to go through. We are trying to, the escalator service folks tried to say that it was someone playing on the escalator that made this happen. But with the security cameras, we do not see anybody on the escalator at the time of the incident. So we've asked the city attorney to help us there. But in the midst of time, we need to get the escalator back up and running. So we're going to make the repair and then still fight the fight that it was not someone playing on the escalator for the reason it broke under our service agreement. So we're working through that. Then is drafting that as we speak to go out to the council for the emergency PO, which will come out of the capital money that we already had in reserve there here through the Benton. Security cameras are going up in Benton South as we speak today. We're still waiting on doors and locks. I know you've heard me talk about that for quite a while. We started talking about it in October. We're still waiting on all the hardware and things to get here. Hopefully sometime this month we will get that so that we can now secure the space. The embassy is coming close to the end of the elevator renovation. Once they do that, then we will be able to key off the elevators at the embassy so they will not go down into Benton South unless there's an event down there. So that will help us with the security of the guests going down into the space with that as well. I'll be glad to answer any questions about the Benton. Those are just my few quick updates.
All right. Well, thank you, Grant.
Thank you.
Bowman Gray.
I'll let Robert take that one.
Yeah, okay. So jumping to Bowman Gray. First race is Saturday, and we are ready. We've done. We got a few punch list items to really get everything cleaned up and ready to go for opening night. But we've had all the practices. There's been a few small items we've been working with the construction team on, kind of rectifying. And other than that, everything is ready to go with racing. And just a reminder for the commission, you guys do have access to the service gate area and parking along the street, and then entering at the service gate. And there's no press box access, but you can sit anywhere within the stadium. And that, I think Rachel sent that out last month as far as directions on that process, but we can send that out if you need it again. Other than that, Ben, I don't know if you want to add anything else with Bowman Gray, but I think we're in good shape and we're excited to have a full season again.
Yeah, I think the only thing I would add, is that we are activating Forest Park, which is south of the stadium, as overflow parking. We've done that the last couple of seasons, but we're really making a more concerted effort to have that area ready for overflow parking. So it'll not only be within the park, but also along Tower Street. Most of the uses down through there are commercial, so we feel like that we can utilize that. We've been consulting with city DOT and city park recreation and park staff on getting prepared for that. So we'll have signage in place to direct folks who want to come to the races. If our lots there immediately adjacent to the stadium are full, they'll direct them down there. So anyway, and just a word of thanks to you all who were able to make the ribbon cutting. So we have officially unveiled, if you will, the $9 million in improvements, and so we're excited about showing off the stadium this year, both for football and for racing. Yes,
I have a
ma'am.
question.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, when we were there for the ribbon cutting, we noticed that the concession stands had the racing stuff on them. Will that change? Is that seasonal? Like, will it change for football?
Yes, absolutely. What will happen is that that signage can flip.
Oh,
so they'll flip, and there will be signage that'll be specific for football. And Robert and I have made that very clear to our food and beverage providers that we've got to make sure that that their facilities are ready for football season, and that's what they've told us. They apparently Pepsi can help food and beverage providers with signage, that type of thing, and they were able to get that through Pepsi, and so we'll that'll be part of our conversion of the stadium over to football there in late August.
Sounds good. Sounds good.
It looked real good too, though. Yeah,
It
the
did.
colors are
It
good.
did.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, Ben, were you in the lap around the stadium?
No, I wasn't. No, that we reserve that for elected officials.
Oh, that's right.
I've been on the track, but it was in the context of folks wanting to point some things out to me. So, but it all looks. I haven't opened up. I haven't taken my car down there or anything. I probably won't do that. So,
Well, it did look good. Everything looked great, but I'm looking forward to the football season too.
yeah, we're very proud and very appreciative of the work of our architect Walter Robbs and the contractor Frank L. Bloom and WC Construction. I just think they did a fabulous job, to do all of this while we were still operating the stadium. I mean, we did have the silver lining of not having a season in 2020, but that certainly helped. But they've done a fabulous job, and Robert and his staff. I mean, they working closely with the contractor on making sure that the stadium was ready, whether it was for Saturday race nights or for Winston-Salem State football games. they worked really hard to make sure that the stadium was operational and ready. And it's a great deal of credit goes to them as well.
Rob, Ben, when will we start looking at the video board out there as far as replacement?
Sure. So Billy, I would tell you that, that was, one of the items in the original scope, of the project. And, just it came down to, the budget and not having the funds to look to replace it. I think it's something that we are going to have to look at, probably in the coming years. I think that we've learned that this particular, I guess you'd say manufacturer, the vendor, no longer exists. And so I know Robert's done some research looking at other places, I think mainly universities that have the same brand of scoreboard. So Robert, if you want to share kind of what you found so far.
Sure. Yeah, I'll touch on that. Thanks, Billy. That's a great question. So the board itself is a Texas Star video board, and Texas Star was really coming big back in 2008, 2009, and a lot of universities and even arenas around the country started kind of purchasing the Texas Star as the next up and coming thing. Ultimately, what happened is Panasonic bought them out. Panasonic then a year later sold them, and then the companies involved just kind of started passing the Texas Star video product off. So they're not in production anymore. They don't replace the modules or anything. There's no real support for it. So I've been working with some of the universities. University of Michigan actually still currently has Texas Star video boards in their arena and on their football field, but this is their last year of operation. So I've been talking with their production folks about maybe getting some replacement pieces and items to kind of get us through to where we need to be. The American Airlines Arena in Dallas, Texas, which is where the Dallas Mavericks and the Dallas Stars play, they also still use Texas Star video boards, and I've been talking with them. So we've got some good options as far as support with kind of colleagues in the industry, but there's not really a support desk, so to speak, like there was 5 or 6 years ago. So I think we've got enough kind of to get us through the next few years, as long as nothing catastrophic happens. But it should be a pretty smooth process until we need to get something done.
Thank you, Robert. And Truist Stadium.
So no real update there. As we've shared with you in the last couple of months, the city, we've got to bring Truist Stadium into compliance with new Major League Baseball facility standards. City staff are working with Dash officials. We've also entered into a contract with an architect who specializes in doing stadium work like this, has experience with working with stadiums on bringing their facilities up to these standards. The name of the firm is Pendulum, based out of Kansas City, Missouri. So they're in the process right now of completing a facility assessment and then developing conceptual designs for what needs to be done, as well as cost estimates. And so once we have that information, we'll be looking to move forward with retaining an architect who would actually do the design work for these upgrades. So the firm we have in place now is just simply to do this conceptual work and the cost estimates. I will share, if I haven't already, that probably a lot of the energy of this project will focus on the visiting team clubhouse based on MLB's new standards. Basically, the home and the visiting clubhouses have to mirror each other. They have to be similar. And so I think there could be a lot of investment in the visiting team clubhouse in terms of the size of the lockers, the number of lockers, the number of shower and bathroom facilities, separate office spaces for the manager. So those types of improvements, a separate commissary. So we'll keep you updated on the progress of that project.
And I think a lot of our board, commission members may go to a Dash game, but I don't think they really understand what is going on out there. And I think there's an opportunity that the city, the group ought to give the commission a tour to actually see what's going on out there. And, you talk about the clubhouses. A lot of people may not understand the importance of the clubhouse and things like that. We know that the city owns the stadium, but that's all you know. You don't know other operations. And it may not be important, but I just think that as commission members, it's something that we can do. When people ask us about what is the city involvement, we'll be able to tell the people about it.
That's an excellent point, Billy. So we'll have discussions with Dash officials about what we can do there to provide you all a tour of the stadium and give you an idea of kind of what we're looking at in terms of the improvements that will be needed to bring them up to MLB standards.
Yeah, that, just to echo Billy, that would be great. I know I'm relatively new to the commission, and Truist Stadium has always kind of felt like this odd black hole of, we talk a lot about the Benton and Bowman Gray and the fairgrounds, but there's never really any mention of the stadium. And so it would just kind of be good to know a little bit better understanding of how the city's actually involved with that facility in an ongoing basis.
I agree, Billy and Kathleen. I mean, I will tell you that I'm disheartened by how, and I've expressed this to Ben already, how difficult the Dash are at working with other entities within the city that would like to have use of the facility when those games, when they're not in play. And I think that this is to me, it's a city-owned facility that I think the city is, I get that the city just lowered the rent and I think it's great. And I think we should find ways to make sure that the Dash can be successful, but not at the exclusion of other groups that would like to be able to use the facility for a reasonable rent. So.
Yeah, all very valid points. Other thoughts from the commissioners? All right, we're a little bit.
I'm sorry. I just think it would be a good idea, as this past week we were able to see the stadium, that perhaps we could go to some of these other locations to see what changes have been made, because it's been 2 or 3 years, since we've been to anything. And just to see what improvements have been made at the Benton, just to see, as Billy mentioned, the Truist Stadium again. And that would help us too to see, opportunities that are available for the future for any of these locations.
We can work on that, Vicki. I'll work with the city attorney's office to just get guidance from them, because essentially I think it would be good for you all to be able to tour these facilities as a group, and we'll work through, any of the logistics as far as, do we have to, provide notice that it's a meeting or anything like that. We'll work through all those details, but we'll work to try to make that happen now that we've got some more months ahead of us, hopefully, and we can get out.
It would be nice if the commission could at least go to one game, as a group, as we do at the Carolina Classic Fair.
Okay, we can.
Okay.
On that.
Now, with that, I'm not looking at it again, but I think we received an email too recently about being able to attend some of these events. Rachel, did you send that out?
Yes, it was sent out after last meeting. I can resend it again
Okay.
with all the information
Okay.
about how to go to Bowman Gray races, Winston-Salem State football,
Right.
concerts,
Yeah.
all of that.
Yes. Okay.
All right, everyone, we're a little bit over our time today. Thank you all for your service. Our agenda states that our next meeting is going to be May 16th at noon, and the location is to be announced. So we'll keep an eye on that. Thank you all for your service, and thank you to our folks at the city for keeping us updated on all of this information. At this point, we are adjourned. Thank you all.
Thank you. Have a great month, everyone.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you.
thanks, everybody.
Thank you.